So over this past weekend, there's been a lot of discussion about the WoW add-on API for Midnight and its impact on people with accessibility concerns. And there's been a Reddit thread that's been collecting stories from many people and their experiences to gather feedback to send to Blizzard about what they're going to do going in Midnight and how Blizzard's going to address this. Now, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I highly suggest if you're interested to check out the thread. I'm going to link it in the description. Today I want to talk about my take on all this. First, I'm going to preface this with saying, because people have been put out there, the add-on authors who are defending accessibility are doing so in their own self-interest to save their own add-ons. And I want to tell you that's not the case. And in fact, my own add-on DBM is already working in Midnight. Blizzard Timeline, DBM reskinning it into timers. If you've watched this channel for a while, you will know that if I were to choose a side between Blizzard and add-on devs, I will always choose the player. I have always advocated in this channel what's best for the player, even if it's against my own self-interests. Now, I have always said in this channel that add-ons should be nerfed, including my own add-on DBM from the very beginning. I've always said that add-ons, and the best place they can be is a place more akin to skinning, as opposed to being the problem solvers themselves. But the base UI should always include the features the player needs out of the box, and add-ons should be the sprinkles on top, the flourishes, the extras that allow you to customize and tailor it to your own needs, similar like Winamp from the 90s, like I always compare it to. And that's exactly what DBM does in Midnight. Now, moving on, I broke down the issues based on threads, based on discords, based on talking to people, and my own experience over the years helping people with disabilities play the game through my own add-on, and come up with a few bullet points that I want to discuss today. First, I'm going to start with color blindness. Issue 1. Designers still place brown on brown, purple on purple during encounters. This has been a problem since the beginning of time, and add-ons have been compensating around this for years. Why do you think people rely so much on add-ons to tell them there's a frontal? They can't always see the frontal. Look at that frontal. Look at those profound visuals that are so easy to see. Look at that brown on brown. So clear. Such visual clarity. You get the point. This is a problem. The new swirlies, that addition to the game, is one of the most amazing things that have been added in the last 20 years. But they need to be, those kind of visuals need to be put in everything. Frontals need to be outlined. Everything needs to be clear and distinct, and not so difficult to see that you need an add-on to call it out so it doesn't kill you in the Mythic Plus. This kind of mistake in a Mythic Plus can end a key, and it's not the player's fault, it's the designer's fault. Designers need to do better. Every game out there that doesn't allow add-ons in combat, Final Fantasy, while Star Wars was still around, they telegraphed mechanics better because they were designed around no add-ons. World of Warcraft has been designed around having add-ons for 20 years, but you're changing that in Midnight. If you're not going to have combat add-ons holding your hand, then design philosophies need to radically change going forward. Now, vision impairments. Issue 1. Navigation is more difficult and often relies on player-assisted movement. Add-ons have worked around this for years by helping with things like auto-follow and follow alerts like sounds when it breaks. What Blizzard needs to do, add-on's ability to do that is being hindered in Midnight. So Blizzard needs to make improvements for follow, such as audio cues when you get stuck or when follow breaks. And they might even consider extending the range of follow so it's harder for it to break, or it's easier to start following, and things like that. Just basically need to consider the needs of people who rely on follow to get around World of Warcraft. Issue 2. Stock UI fails in many ways in making things apparent enough. Stock unit frames might only have small icons. Text in those icons might be even smaller. Heck, Midnight, for example, the vigor bar for your mount, I'll show you right now. That's why I have alpha open. The vigor bar has gone away. Now, see these little sixes down here? That's your new vigor bar. That's what you have to look at, these tiny numbers on your action bar, because for some reason they decided the bigger bar was visual clutter. So now they made it harder to see. People thought when Blizzard posted that changelog, vigor's going away. No, it's not going away. It's just down here now. And guess what? Add-ons can't fix it. Because spell cooldowns and spell charges are restricted. This shouldn't have happened. Whoever made this change wasn't thinking about the visual needs of the players at all. And that's just one example of Blizzard needing to do better about understanding the stock UI has to be adequate for all users. So that's my feedback to Blizzard, saying, you're going in the wrong direction. You should be going the other way in Midnight. Add-ons have been working around this for years as well. Any place where the UI has been inadequate, add-ons have made things bigger. They've gave font options. They added sparkles like cursor trail, more UI flash, more glows. Add-ons for years have been making the UI easier to see to address accessibility concerns. What Blizzard needs to do, they just need to do better. They need to do better with the stock UI. They need to be going forward, not backwards. Issue 3, stock encounter alerts. Now, we haven't seen that yet. We've seen the timeline, but we haven't seen the actual text alerts beyond screenshots. And screenshots don't really tell you a whole picture. You can't hear a screenshot, for example. So we don't know what kind of sounds there are, sound customizations. We know there's no UI for it yet, so we know it's work in progress. They said it's coming in week 3, and we're moving into week 2, so we're not going to see it this week either, probably. We're going to see it in week 3. So we don't have any context of it yet. But based on past experience, we know some things Blizzard has done. They added visuals around the screen when you're standing in bed. And they've had basic alerts where a yellow emote flashes on the screen with red text of the spell name. And that's basically what they have so far. And we've seen the screenshots where they have more alerts that are a little bit more directive, similar to DBM, but we don't know the customization. Now, add-ons, as you know, have been working around this for years. They've been providing all kinds of alerts, visual and audible, from top down, UI flash, text-to-speech, like DBM uses now, that modern voice packs. DBM's even gone as far as to add controller vibration. If you're using a controller, when you're playing an encounter, it will vibrate during encounter alerts. Those kind of extras go a long way in improving accessibility. And I have a lot of experience helping with accessibility over the years because people with various disabilities have reached out to me and said, hey, I could use this or that. Even little things like, hey, this boss has 2 similar mechanics and they both have the same sound file. Can you make sure that they have different sound files so I can tell them apart more clearly? And that's the kind of feedback that I've had over the years. Now, Blizzard, when they're taking add-ons away, is starting at square one. They don't have much experience and feedback in this that some of us add-on authors do over the years, and that's why I'm making a video like this, to share that feedback, as well as encouraging the community to keep sharing that feedback and saying, this is what I've been using over the years. I've needed this add-on and this add-on for this reason and this reason. I need this. And that's what that Reddit thread's about. So Blizzard is no doubt following that thread with great detail and following videos like this as well. So what Blizzard needs to do is they need to ensure that when they're committing to taking over the stock UI and saying, this is what you have from now on, add-ons can't do this anymore, they need to ensure that that stock UI is matching the needs, that it has options like TTS, that it has options like playing a sound file, not just a visual border for standing in fire on the ground, because not everyone can see that visual very well. Sometimes the only thing they have is their hearing, and vice versa. Sometimes all they have is their eyes and don't have as much access to sound. So you need to have clarity in both sound and visual up to par with what players are losing. Now, issue number 4. Stock UI has many elements that require clicking to dismiss something or interact with something. This was recently improved with the interact keybind, being able to interact with targets using a keybind. That's been a huge success and great addition to the game. But there's still major issues with the cursor. Now, add-ons have worked around it, like Console Port has an issue where it will virtual snap the cursor to the position so you can click something. But without something like that, if you can't see your cursor to move it around, then it's difficult for you to interact with certain interface elements that don't allow you to confirm with the enter button, or the return button, or the escape key, such as static pop-up dialogues, or even a Lua error that pops up on your screen. You have to click it off. You can't just escape it. You can't just hit enter. And that's something that the UI needs to improve and needs to consider going forward. Now, hearing loss. There's a lot of parallel with visual, just kind of contrast the other side. But I'm going to go over it a bit. Issue 1. The game does revolve a lot around sounds. The sounds a spell makes when cast. The sound a boss yells when casting it. The sound from the stock UI when it plays that raid boss emote. But if you can't hear any of that, you rely more on visuals. And visuals is where add-ons have covered the most. And I pretty much already covered that above, you know, screen glow, UI flash, controller vibration, increased font size, etc. All those need to exist in the stock UI for players that have to rely on what they see over what they hear. Issue 2, this is a big one, probably the biggest one of all. Reliance on communication, Discord, built-in voice chat, TeamSpeak, you name it. Not every player has access to these tools, and they've used tools like add-ons to communicate in-game, such as sending chat spam, raid warnings in the middle of combat. And this is becoming far more difficult in Midnight when you have weak Rs and boss mods not being able to solve things for you. You need to communicate things. You need to tell someone, I need you to go over there. I need you to go over there. I need you to go over there. Without voice chat. Now, the ping system is one thing that helps with that. That's a great addition to the game. One of the greatest, in fact. Just like Interact Keybind. The ping system has been amazing for non-vocal communication, but it's not enough. And that's one thing where I came up with the idea of something similar to ping system, but like a text sending system. And that's when I thought about Diablo 4. If you've played Diablo 4, you can push a button that brings up a circle where all your emotes are, like hello, goodbye, follow me, etc. That's exactly what World of Warcraft needs. Just like the ping system, you push a key and bring up a wheel, but instead of pings, this shows basic things like I'll interrupt next, or use a cooldown, etc. And you can customize the phrases in this, and it could be a secure API to where add-ons can't read it, and it's not auto-solving. It requires a hardware input to bring up and send these interactions, and they can be multiple pages, just like Diablo 4 UI, and maybe you can even enter your own phrases. On top of that, because keybinding UI is so good in game, you can keybind specific phrases that you might need for that encounter, or ones you use often as a raid leader. So you have a system in-game that replaces the loss of add-ons that were basically doing the same thing. They had add-ons that were doing this already, like a box where you click things and send messages. This would basically replace that. This would be a huge addition to the way you communicate in-game without voice chat. And there was other ideas I had too, like maybe certain debuffs, like, for example, it's raid wiping. If you don't specifically say player has to go here, here, and here, they can't be in a different order. It has to be a specific order. Like, for example, last year, when you had to make the lines to kill the ghosts. No, that was 2 tiers ago. But something like that, where precision of positions is key. Debuffs like that could have a visual over your head similar to like Addon from like Trial of Valor, where each person that had the debuff had a different symbol. That way you can coordinate based on the visualness of the debuff. If the positioning is so important, so key, that you need to solve it with communication and solve it quickly, that's a way they can approach doing it, is making it so, essentially, in the absence of add-ons auto-marking it, Blizzard is, in a way, is kind of auto-marking it themselves with the visual distinction between different players having that debuff. But anyways, that's about all I have for this so far. I'm sure more things are going to be discussed in the comments, on Reddit, and in general, and I look forward to hearing that feedback. And I have no doubt Blizzard looks forward to hearing that feedback. And please keep giving that feedback. As I said in my previous video, I am every bit confident that Blizzard overshot the restrictions in alpha specifically to get this feedback. They want to know what players need, and the best way to do that is to first take away the add-ons that are making up for those needs. Blizzard can't know what you're needing if there's currently a band-aid already over it. Sometimes you have to rip the band-aid off to figure out what's wrong. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.